Emma Reed had always believed that a true friend would be there through every storm, a steady presence in a chaotic world. But what happens when that faith begins to waver? When the friend she trusted with her secrets and dreams starts to feel like a stranger, more of a shadow than a sanctuary? Emma gave, she cared, she waited. Yet every encounter left her wondering, is she the one who's missing something, or has the friendship already faded away? As Emma wrestles with these silent doubts, she feels trapped between her loyalty and a harsh reality. Sarah Collins, her once beloved friend, is present in body but absent in spirit. Sarah's charm is undeniable, her stories captivating, but when Emma needed her most, all she received was an empty echo. Could Emma hold on to a friendship slipping through her fingers? Or was it time to confront the painful truth that some connections are only illusions? Emma Reed believed that true friendship was a sanctuary, an unwavering bond that offered both joy and refuge in an unpredictable world. She valued connections that felt real, unbreakable, and grounding. Her friendship with Sarah Collins had once felt exactly like that, a stable foundation in the ever-changing pace of New York City. But recently, Emma sensed a shift, a subtle yet unsettling coldness, as if Sarah's warmth and support were slipping away, leaving her with more questions than answers. They often met at their favorite cafe on the Lower East Side, a cozy spot with dim lighting and the aroma of freshly ground coffee. Sarah would talk about her career milestones, her latest trips, and the dramas in her dating life, painting colorful stories that kept Emma entertained. Emma would listen, offering support and advice, always invested in her friend's happiness. But when Emma tried to share her own struggles, Sarah's responses felt hollow, as if she was only half listening. Was Sarah truly there? Emma tried to dismiss these feelings, telling herself that Sarah was simply busy or preoccupied. After all, in a city like New York, it was easy to become consumed by work and personal ambitions. But each time they met, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Sarah was drifting further away, mentally and emotionally. Was Emma expecting too much from a friendship? Or was it fair to hope for a friend who reciprocated the support she offered? Their friendship had once been a safe space, a reminder that Emma wasn't alone amidst the city's chaos. But now, after each meeting, she felt an emptiness creeping in, as though she was pouring her energy into something that gave nothing back. Could Sarah even see the imbalance? Emma replayed their conversations in her mind, dissecting each word, each glance, hoping to find reassurance that this friendship was as real as she once believed. But all she found were signs of a growing disconnection. Late one night, after yet another evening where Sarah had dominated the conversation and brushed off Emma's attempts to open up, Emma lay awake, sadness pressing heavily on her heart. Was it wrong to wish that Sarah would occasionally ask, "How are you really?" Emma could see the cracks forming in their friendship, the unspoken divide between them. But even as her doubts grew, she wasn't ready to let go. Loyalty, she thought, was worth fighting for. Emma clung to the hope that things would change, that Sarah would eventually remember the friend who had always been there for her. She believed that friendship was about persistence and understanding, not abandoning people at the first sign of trouble. But how much could one person give without receiving? How long could Emma hold on to a friendship that seemed to be slipping away, one silent, painful moment at a time? Emma's doubts about Sarah began as fleeting whispers, small moments that she quickly brushed aside. But as weeks passed, those whispers grew louder, like a nagging voice she couldn't silence. She noticed that every conversation revolved around Sarah's needs, her dramas, her dreams. Emma listened, supported, and gave, but when it was her turn to speak, Sarah seemed to tune out. Could friendship really survive on such uneven ground? Was she wrong to want something more? The turning point came one evening when Emma was going through a rough patch at work, a project that seemed to crumble with every new deadline. Desperate for support, she texted Sarah, hoping for encouragement, maybe even a suggestion to meet for coffee. But hours passed without a response. When Sarah finally replied the next morning, it was with a casual, "Oh, sorry. Got busy. Hope you're okay." Emma stared at her phone, feeling a hollow ache in her chest. Was that all she meant to Sarah? Yet when Sarah needed a favor, she reached out instantly, as if Emma's time and energy were always readily available. A week after ignoring Emma's text, Sarah called, her voice filled with urgency. "Emma, I need to vent. This work drama is driving me crazy," she said without a hint of irony. Emma listened, even as resentment bubbled beneath the surface. Was this what their friendship had come to? A one-sided lifeline where Emma was only valued for her utility? Emma started to question everything she thought she knew about their friendship. She found herself dissecting each interaction, each careless response, searching for signs that her role in Sarah's life was more than convenient support. Her heart ached at the thought, but reality was seeping in. The friendship she cherished might only be real in her mind. Could she keep sacrificing her own needs for someone who barely seemed to notice her struggles? Or was it time to confront this painful truth? Emma couldn't bring herself to believe that Sarah didn't care. Wasn't friendship supposed to be about loyalty, about understanding each other's flaws? She found herself justifying Sarah's behavior, convincing herself that maybe she was asking for too much. After all, life in New York was demanding and everyone was juggling their own challenges. But was this rationalization an act of loyalty, or was it a way to avoid facing the truth? Every time doubt crept in, Emma would remember the good moments, the late-night conversations, the laughter that felt endless, the times when Sarah had been there, even if briefly. Those memories became her anchor, proof that their friendship had once been real. "She's just busy," Emma told herself repeatedly, clinging to the belief that Sarah's distance was temporary, that things would eventually go back to the way they were. But how long could she keep making excuses? The thought of confronting Sarah sent a shiver down Emma's spine. What would she even say? And what if Sarah brushed her off or got defensive? Emma feared that addressing the imbalance might not only hurt Sarah but could destroy what little remained of their connection. Could she really risk losing her closest friend? The very idea felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down at a void of isolation and loneliness. Emma's loyalty kept her bound, even as the weight of the friendship grew heavier with each passing day. She felt trapped, unable to move forward yet unwilling to let go. "Maybe I just need to be more understanding," she thought. "Maybe this is what friendship looks like in adulthood. Sporadic, imperfect, sometimes disappointing." But deep down, a small, insistent voice asked, was she lying to herself? How long could she keep pretending everything was fine? And so, Emma continued to carry the friendship alone, her heart split between love for Sarah and a painful yearning for something more. Every time she doubted, she pushed those feelings aside, burying them beneath layers of loyalty and hope. But with each encounter, her strength waned. She wondered how much longer she could keep pretending that this friendship, once her greatest joy, wasn't slowly becoming her heaviest burden. Emma decided to seek clarity in a place she hadn't visited in years, a therapist's office. Linda Brooks, with her calm demeanor and perceptive gaze, welcomed Emma with warmth and understanding. "So, tell me what brings you here," Linda began, her voice gentle yet probing. Emma hesitated, wondering if her concerns sounded trivial, but finally the words spilled out. She spoke of Sarah, of the friendship that felt more like a chore, of her confusion and sadness. Was it wrong to feel this way? Linda listened intently, nodding, allowing Emma to release the burden she'd carried alone. When Emma finished, Linda offered a soft smile. "Emma, friendships are about mutual care, not just convenience," she said. "It's natural to feel hurt when you're giving so much and receiving so little. But tell me, do you believe that your worth depends on Sarah's reciprocation?" The question lingered, striking a chord Emma hadn't anticipated. Did she place her self-worth in Sarah's hands? "True friendship is like a balance," Linda continued. "It's okay for one person to lean on the other now and then, but when that balance is constantly tipped, it becomes draining." Linda introduced Emma to the concept of metta, a Buddhist practice of loving kindness, not just towards others but also toward oneself. "You've shown Sarah compassion, Emma. But have you shown any to yourself?" Emma was taken aback, realizing she had neglected her own needs in an attempt to hold on to the friendship. Linda then touched on another idea inspired by the law of attraction. "We attract the relationships we believe we deserve. If you focus on relationships that bring you joy, you'll start to notice people who align with that energy," she explained. "What if, instead of clinging to what isn't working, you redirected your energy to finding connections that truly nourish you?" The thought stirred something deep within Emma. Could she shift her focus and attract more meaningful friendships? The session left Emma with a mix of peace and unresolved questions. She realized that holding on to Sarah was, in many ways, holding on to a version of herself that feared abandonment. Perhaps, she thought, this journey isn't about losing a friend but about finding myself. Emma walked out of Linda's office with a new sense of purpose. Her worth wasn't determined by Sarah's actions, and her happiness didn't depend on a single friendship. She was beginning to see her own value independent of others. Emma left the session feeling lighter, as though she'd been given permission to let go of expectations that no longer served her. Linda's words echoed in her mind. Compassion for yourself is just as important as compassion for others. For the first time, Emma felt that maybe, just maybe, she had the right to seek friendships that uplifted her, rather than ones that left her questioning her own worth. The path ahead was unclear, but she sensed she was finally ready to walk it. Emma decided it was time to test the waters, to see if the friendship could survive without her constant effort. She stopped reaching out first, letting the silence fill the space where her messages and calls once were. At first she felt a pang of guilt, a sense that she was somehow betraying Sarah. But then she remembered Linda's words about compassion for herself. Was she finally allowing herself to prioritize her own needs? Days turned into weeks and still no word from Sarah. The silence spoke volumes, echoing back to Emma the imbalance she'd felt but had struggled to accept. How could a friendship be real if it relied entirely on her to keep it alive? Every day without a message from Sarah felt like both a relief and a wound, proof that her efforts had always been one-sided. Could she keep pretending that everything was okay when the truth was so glaringly obvious? Then one evening Emma's phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. For a brief moment her heart lifted. Had Sarah finally noticed the silence? Had she realized what Emma had been going through? But as she opened the message, her heart sank. "Hey, I need a favor. Can you help me out with something?" There was no acknowledgement of the distance, no recognition of Emma's needs. Just another request as if nothing had changed. Emma closed her eyes, feeling the familiar ache return. This was her answer. Sarah had reached out not because she missed her but because she needed something. For Emma, the message was clear. If she wanted to be valued, she would have to find it elsewhere. Taking a deep breath, she resolved to keep moving forward, even if it meant leaving Sarah behind in the silence. With the distance between herself and Sarah growing, Emma began to experience a mix of relief and loneliness. While new friendships blossomed, the absence of her longtime friend lingered like a shadow. Emma felt a sense of freedom in focusing on her needs, yet doubts would often creep in, leaving her questioning her decision. Each time she met with Mia, however, she felt more assured, as if the weight of expectation was gradually lifting from her shoulders. Emma and Mia spent more time together, sharing their struggles and celebrating small victories. Mia's warmth and understanding created a safe space for Emma to express her feelings openly. One afternoon, while sitting in a park surrounded by blooming cherry blossoms, Emma confessed her fears about confronting Sarah. "What if I'm just overreacting?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mia placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You deserve to feel valued, Emma. This isn't about overreacting. It's about recognizing your worth." As Emma navigated her evolving friendships, she felt the pressure of societal expectations weighing heavily on her. Friends often expect loyalty, but at what cost? The thought lingered in her mind as she pondered her past with Sarah. Just then, Sarah sent another message asking if they could catch up. The invitation stirred conflicting emotions. Was this Sarah genuinely reaching out, or simply seeking the comfort of familiarity when it suited her? That evening, Emma found herself replaying their past interactions, desperately searching for signs that Sarah had truly valued their friendship. But the memories felt tainted, overshadowed by the weight of neglect she had endured. Why do I still want this connection? Emma wondered aloud, grappling with her attachment. Why do I keep justifying her behavior? She realized that letting go of an unhealthy friendship required more than just acceptance. It demanded an inner strength she was only beginning to discover. During a heart-to-heart with Mia, Emma voiced her concerns. "What if I confront Sarah and it blows up in my face? What if she doesn't understand?" Mia nodded, encouraging her to trust her instincts. "You won't know unless you try, Emma. Your truth matters. If Sarah can't accept that, then maybe it's time to let her go." Emma's heart raced at the thought. Could she really take that step? Would it mean severing a bond that had once been so meaningful? As days turned into nights, Emma prepared for the inevitable confrontation. She practiced what she wanted to say, recalling Linda's advice to be honest yet compassionate. It became clear to her that speaking her truth wasn't an act of aggression. It was a necessary step toward reclaiming her sense of self. Yet a part of her still felt that familiar tug of guilt. What if Sarah needed her more than ever? Finally, the day arrived for Emma to meet Sarah. As she walked through the familiar streets, her heart beat loudly in her chest. The cafe where they had shared countless laughs now felt like a stage for a pivotal scene in her life. "This is it," Emma whispered to herself, steeling her resolve. She was ready to confront the feelings she had buried for too long, to address the imbalance in their friendship. Seated across from Sarah, Emma felt the weight of their history pressing down on her. Sarah smiled brightly, but Emma could see the disconnect in her eyes. With each passing moment, Emma felt the internal struggle of wanting to maintain the peace while knowing the truth needed to be voiced. As the conversation unfolded, Emma sensed the stakes rising. The time for change had come. Determined to break the cycle of silence, Emma decided it was now or never. She took a deep breath, preparing to share her truth about how the friendship had made her feel. In that moment, she knew this conversation could redefine everything. Would Sarah listen? Would she understand? Emma was about to find out. As Emma arrived at the cafe, she felt the familiar mix of excitement and dread swirling in her stomach. The soft chatter and clinking of coffee cups created an atmosphere that felt both welcoming and daunting. Sarah was already seated, scrolling through her phone, seemingly oblivious to the emotional storm brewing within Emma. This is it, Emma thought, feeling the weight of her decision pressing down on her. Would she finally find the courage to speak her truth? With each passing moment, Emma rehearsed her words in her mind, trying to find the right balance between honesty and compassion. I need to express how I feel without pushing her away, she reminded herself. But could she avoid sounding accusatory? What if Sarah responded defensively? The fear of losing their friendship loomed large, casting a shadow over Emma's resolve. Still, she knew she had to try. She could no longer carry the burden of silence. When Sarah looked up, her eyes lit up momentarily. "Emma, I'm so glad you could make it," she exclaimed, her voice bright. The cheerfulness felt dissonant, a stark contrast to Emma's internal turmoil. "Thanks for inviting me," Emma replied, forcing a smile as she took her seat. Inside, she felt like she was about to dive into uncharted waters, unsure of what awaited her beneath the surface. Could she navigate this conversation without sinking? As they sipped their coffees, Sarah dove into her usual banter, recounting tales from her week that held no space for Emma's feelings. Emma listened, the warmth of the cafe contrasting with the chill creeping into her heart. But this time something felt different. Emma realized she couldn't let Sarah's chatter drown out her own voice any longer. She had to reclaim her narrative and demand the respect she deserved. "Sarah," Emma said, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "there's something important I need to talk to you about." The words hung in the air, charged with unspoken tension. Sarah looked at her, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "What's up?" she asked, a hint of unease creeping into her tone. Emma felt a surge of determination. This was the moment she had been preparing for. She would finally confront the imbalance in their friendship, no matter the outcome. "Sarah, I've been feeling really disconnected from you lately," Emma began, her heart pounding as she fought against the urge to back down. "I've noticed that our friendship often feels one-sided. I find myself giving a lot but receiving very little in return." The words tumbled out, raw and vulnerable, yet they felt liberating. Emma could see Sarah's expression shift from casual interest to something more serious. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, her tone laced with confusion. Emma took a deep breath, ready to lay bare her heart. "I feel like I'm always the one reaching out, always the one listening to your problems, but when I try to share my own struggles, it feels like you tune out. I need you to know that it hurts." She watched as Sarah's face registered surprise, followed by a hint of defensiveness. "I didn't realize you felt that way," Sarah replied, her voice dropping slightly. "I'm just really busy. It's not that I don't care." Emma sensed a familiar wave of doubt wash over her, but she pushed it aside. "I understand that life gets hectic, but friendship should be about supporting each other. I've felt alone in this, and I'm beginning to question if this is a true friendship." The tension in the air was palpable as Emma spoke, the words carrying the weight of her unspoken fears. Would Sarah understand? Would she recognize the pain that had lingered in their relationship? For a moment, Sarah looked away, her gaze distant. "I guess I've been caught up in my own world. I never meant to make you feel neglected," she finally admitted, her voice softer now. "But I'm just not good at this. I thought you understood." Emma felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this conversation could lead to a deeper understanding. But as Sarah continued, Emma realized that the acknowledgement of the issue didn't equate to a willingness to change. "I need you to meet me halfway, Sarah," Emma insisted, her voice firm but compassionate. "It's not just about understanding, it's about effort. I want us to be friends who genuinely care for one another, not just when it's convenient." Sarah sighed, visibly torn between her desire to maintain the friendship and her struggle to acknowledge her shortcomings. "I'll try, Emma. I promise I will," she finally said, but Emma could sense the hesitation in her words. In that moment, Emma felt a mix of emotions: relief, fear, and a deep-rooted sadness. She had spoken her truth, yet uncertainty lingered in the air. Was Sarah truly committed to making an effort, or was this just another promise that would fade with time? Emma realized that while she had taken a significant step, the journey to redefine their friendship was only just beginning. She couldn't control Sarah's actions, but she could control her own heart. After their conversation, Emma felt an unexpected wave of relief wash over her. She had spoken her truth, and regardless of how Sarah would respond moving forward, she had reclaimed her voice. The burden of unexpressed feelings that had weighed heavily on her shoulders began to lift. It felt liberating to acknowledge her needs, to embrace the idea that she deserved a friendship built on mutual respect and support. The journey towards self-acceptance had begun, and Emma was determined to see it through. In the days that followed, Emma took the time to reflect on her own worth and the relationships that nourished her spirit. She invested in new friendships, forming connections that were genuine and reciprocal. Emma found herself laughing more, sharing her thoughts openly, and embracing moments of vulnerability without fear. Each new interaction felt like a step toward healing, reminding her of the importance of surrounding herself with those who valued her as much as she valued them. She was learning to attract the positive energy she had long desired. Sarah, too, seemed to take Emma's words to heart, reaching out more often and making an effort to check in. Their friendship began to shift, but Emma understood that rebuilding trust would take time. She felt a renewed sense of empowerment, knowing she had set boundaries and was actively choosing the people in her life. Emma realized that the true reward wasn't merely a change in Sarah's behavior, but rather the growth she had experienced within herself, an awakening to the beauty of balanced relationships and the strength found in vulnerability. As weeks turned into months, Emma felt a newfound sense of balance in her life. The conversations she had with Sarah had opened a door, not just to healing their friendship, but to understanding her own needs. Each day brought her closer to a version of herself that was unapologetically authentic. Emma learned to prioritize friendships that enriched her life, seeking connections where mutual respect and support flowed freely. The lessons she absorbed became a guiding light, illuminating her path forward. During this time, Emma decided to host a small gathering, inviting Mia and a few other friends she had made along the way. As laughter filled her apartment, she felt a profound sense of belonging. This was the type of energy she had been searching for, the warmth of friendships built on trust, understanding, and genuine care. In these moments, Emma realized that true friendship was not only about sharing burdens but also about celebrating each other's joys. She felt alive, empowered, and surrounded by love. In reflecting on her journey, Emma recognized the importance of her experience with Sarah. It had taught her valuable lessons about boundaries, self-worth, and the significance of reciprocity in relationships. While Sarah was still a part of her life, Emma now approached their friendship with a clearer understanding of what she needed. It was no longer about clinging to an unhealthy bond. Instead, it was about cultivating a friendship that could evolve. Emma had taken ownership of her emotional landscape. As she continued to nurture her friendships, Emma felt a weight lift from her heart. She understood that it was okay to distance herself from those who didn't value her and that she could create space for connections that brought joy and fulfillment. This journey back had not only restored her sense of self but had also deepened her understanding of what it meant to truly be a friend. Emma was ready to embrace her new reality, one filled with hope and genuine connection. As Emma embraced her newfound confidence, she realized that the journey was far from over. Her relationship with Sarah had begun to shift, but the road to rebuilding trust would take time and effort from both sides. During a heartfelt conversation, Emma had the courage to express her feelings again, this time with a sense of clarity and strength. "I want our friendship to thrive, but I need to know that you're committed to this too," she said firmly. Emma knew she deserved a friend who was equally invested. In this process, Emma also learned to release any lingering resentment toward Sarah. The more she focused on her own growth and the joy she found in new friendships, the more she could approach Sarah with compassion rather than bitterness. This act of forgiveness was not about excusing Sarah's past behavior but about freeing herself from the emotional weight that had held her back. Emma felt empowered, knowing that she could choose how to respond to her feelings and set the tone for future interactions. Emerging from this transformative experience, Emma understood that friendships would always require effort and understanding. She embraced the notion that it was okay to establish boundaries and that she could prioritize her emotional health without guilt. With this clarity, Emma felt rejuvenated and ready to face whatever came next. She had learned that true strength lies not in avoiding difficult conversations but in navigating them with honesty and integrity. And with that understanding, she stepped into her new life, confident and self-assured. With her newfound wisdom and strength, Emma felt compelled to share her journey with others. She organized a small gathering at her apartment, inviting friends from work and the new connections she had nurtured. As they sat in a circle, sipping tea and enjoying snacks, Emma shared her story, the struggles, the doubts, and the eventual liberation she found in recognizing the value of balanced friendships. "It's okay to prioritize your own well-being," she urged. "We all deserve connections that uplift us, not drain us." Her friends listened intently, some nodding in agreement, while others shared their own experiences of unbalanced relationships. Emma felt a sense of camaraderie as they exchanged stories, each revelation further solidifying the bonds between them. This was the kind of friendship Emma had longed for, a space where vulnerability was met with understanding and support. In that moment, she realized that her journey wasn't just about healing herself. It was about creating a community of compassion and authenticity. As the evening drew to a close, Emma felt a warm glow of fulfillment. She had transformed from a place of uncertainty to one of empowerment, not just for herself but for those around her. The lessons she learned were now a gift she could offer to others. Emma understood that true friendship was a reciprocal dance of support, and she was ready to embrace this new chapter in her life with open arms, surrounded by people who valued her for who she truly was. Emma's journey taught her that true friendship is built on mutual respect and support, not just convenience. Through her experiences with Sarah, she learned the importance of setting boundaries and recognizing her self-worth. The pain of a one-sided friendship opened the door to healthier connections and deeper understanding of herself. Emma discovered that it's not only acceptable to prioritize her own needs but essential for fostering meaningful relationships. Her story encourages us to embrace vulnerability and seek balance in all our connections. In the end, Emma found empowerment not just in confronting Sarah but in choosing to surround herself with those who uplift her spirit. She learned that every friendship should be a two-way street, and acknowledging when a relationship becomes unbalanced is a vital step toward emotional health. The lessons she absorbed are applicable to anyone facing similar challenges in their friendships. Ultimately, her journey serves as a reminder that we all deserve to be valued, respected, and loved for who we truly are. Have you ever found yourself in a friendship that felt one-sided, where you were the only one investing effort? What lengths would you go to preserve a bond that drains you emotionally? Reflecting on Emma's journey, do you believe it's worth fighting for connections that don't reciprocate your care, or is it better to let go and seek healthier relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you believe in valuing genuine friendships, hit like.